all for being here.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey everyone, my name is Eric Force. Thank you so much for coming out today to the Career Transition Conference. It's the first time we've ever held this event. I'm the coordinator of the Workforce Development DAO, which is part of We Heart SF. We're an organization that meets every Wednesday right down the street here at the House of Web3. And we're using Web3 technology to try to create better information services for everyone who's working on the unhoused problem here in the city of San Francisco. So we're very excited to have collaborated with Albert Qian from Albert's List. Thank you, Albert. For helping put this together. And I'll turn it over to Albert for the Is It Time to Quit Tech, Discover Careers with a Book. Thank you all.
Yeah, so welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. It's a beautiful day outside. It's the day after probably a lot of late Halloween parties. And so I'm very grateful that many of you decided to take the time to come out here and to learn about transitioning in your careers. And so, the first topic of this conference today is we want to talk about whether it's time to quit tech or not. And so we all know the data, right? Or almost 500,000 people have been laid off from tech companies over the last couple of years. New companies have been laying off just really in the last week. And you've had everyone from Fortune 500s to small startups do this. And all the reasons have kind of come down to macroeconomic uncertainty. It's come down to investing in AI. It's also come down to just high interest rates and not wanting to hire people because it's just way too expensive to do so. Before we begin, how many of you do work in tech and are actively thinking of quitting? Okay, so a lot of you. And actually, how many are thinking of quitting? Actually, should be the second question if we're raising our hands. Okay, good. So I'm glad there's some of you. Don't be shy in raising your hand on that either, by the way, because I work in tech too, and I work in the Bay Area in tech, and it's brutal because companies will drop you at a hat, and you know that when it comes to things like the pandemic, they treated us all really, really kindly. They pretended to care about our mental health, and then once the economic situation got bad, they said, okay, we're gonna lay off 20% of the staff here because of macroeconomic conditions. And so the purpose of this first panel today is I've assembled a group of very distinguished individuals who I've had the pleasure of interacting with one way or another over the last decade plus. And they all don't work in tech. They may touch tech, but they work in areas outside of technology. And we're going to talk today about each and every one of their careers, and we're going to separate reality from hype, and we're going to learn about what it's like to work in their industries. And there will be a chance for Q&A at the end, and we're going to go through 6 or 7 standard questions talking about what they do for a living, how much they make, because we all care about how much we take home, the day-to-day work, education, and so forth. And also the question that probably many of you want to know is whether their careers are going to be impacted by artificial intelligence, because that's also on our minds as well. And so we're going to get started with introductions, and the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to start from my right, start from my right and go to the very right, and then we're going to come back with the second questions and just go back and forth. And each of these individuals will also have a chance at the very end to promote themselves, be open for introductions and talk about coaching and things of that sort. And so there's an opportunity to network as well towards the end. So our first question for each and every one of you, I know all of you have complex careers and you do amazing things. And some of you also have multiple careers, like Mark over here. And so let's start by talking about what it is that you do and some of maybe your day-to-day duties. So we'll start with Cheryl here.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Cheryl. I'm a library services manager at the Santa Clara County Library District. My role is, you think of a librarian and you see them at the library. My role is very different. I currently oversee the programming side and all of the collections for our 8 community libraries. So like I like to tell people, I'm the person that is the wallet holder. I'm the one with the purse. I'm the one signing the checks. I'm the one that has the contracts that for all the programs that you see at the library, a lot of it touches my desk. And so it's been around 7 months I've been there. I have worked in other government agencies, including the City of Mountain View, the city of Palo Alto, city of Santa Clara, the Contra Costa County, and currently right now, the county of Santa Clara. So I have over 30 years of government experience. So if you ever need help on how to kind of get into government or want a government career, come talk to me. I got you covered.
Sweet.
Thanks.
And if as a part of your career you also left tech, indicate that in your answer too.
Unfortunately, I have never left tech. I've always wanted to be in tech. You know, it was really like cool, like back when everybody was getting those free lunches, and then I would hear all about those Christmas parties in San Francisco where you guys went on a boat and, you know, toured Alcatraz and had all these like late night fun nights. No. You're lucky to get a hot dog or a potluck at your Christmas party. So, but, you know, there are definitely perks and advantages of working in government, and definitely helping people is the number one thing. So, and you get paid for it, which is really, really great. But I'll let our other panelists take over, and then I can talk more about that.
Cool. All right, Sandy.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name is Sandy McClenehan, and I'm a hat maker, amongst many other things. Formerly in tech, I keep saying tech quit me about 1.5 years ago. I was one of the many laid off from the tech industry. I was a customer success manager, program manager for many years. And I've had the joy and the privilege truly to be able to lean more into my creative pursuits over this last 1.5 years, almost 2 years, that I've been on my own, which has led me to making hats, which has led me to selling jewelry, which has led me to really just beginning to build my life and create it in the way that I want. So my answer, while not straightforward, it's really hard to say that I do any one thing right now. But what I do get to do is work with a lot of small businesses. I get to bring out all of my skills that I learned in the tech field and bring it to all of these different people that I have the opportunity and the pleasure to work with. I am also really enjoying getting to lean back into my coaching world, which I did quit tech. This is not my first time quitting tech. This is my second time, actually. But I'm bringing back my coaching career and being able to help other people create life the way that they want it, and to really realize that while we believe that the 9-to-5 was the stable route and is the way that we can go to have security for our future, it's not actually always like that. And we're all learning that very quickly these days in the world of layoffs. And so being able to decide how you want to make life for yourself allows you to create that stability and create that flexibility to move with the craziness and the chaos that life tends to bring us, but allow us to solidify ourselves back into ourselves and know that we can, I don't know, like a bird, trust our own wings rather than trust the branch that we're standing on. So, thank you.
Hello, I'm Wesley. I'm a small business owner of Connection Math, which I started earlier this year. It provides math tutoring services to students in San Jose. But yeah, I left tech, I guess about 10 years ago. And yeah, I was working in like statistics and data analytics. But you know, I was always doing a little bit of the math teaching and math tutoring on the side, which is kind of how I got into my current small business position. You know, so always just really happy working with the students is really, I'd say, the big benefit of yeah, being a small business owner, and you get to set your own hours.
Thanks, Wesley. Good morning. Thank you for showing up today. I'm excited to learn from you and from everyone else here on stage. So my tech career, I would say that's the majority of my career. It's been in databases and internet security. One of my funnest stops was with a company called VeriSign, which got acquired by a company you work for, Symantec. But it was post-VeriSign. That was my last full-time tech job, where I wanted to see what was beyond tech. So I would say I haven't quit tech. I've expanded to see what else is there beyond tech. So I would say in your tech career, what did you do, or what are you doing now that you found joy in? For me, it was presentations. It's getting my engineers ready to communicate, whether it's from the stage, from an interview, and it turns out that that's a skill that's highly in demand. So after leaving VeriSign, I looked to see what can I do, and I ended up creating a communications company. So specifically, we help folks prepare for conferences like this. A fun one that we did a couple of weeks ago was TED AI. As you know, AI is the most popular topic on the planet these days. But I would say everybody wants to get on a stage to speak about AI, to talk about the future of AI. So a couple of tips as you're listening today. Think about what skills you have that could translate to other industries. For me, it was communications. For you, it might be design. It might be working with government. But there's a skill that you already have that can facilitate this transition.
Hi, everybody. I'm Patrick Sedillo. I'm a real estate broker in the Peninsula. And when I was in college, I had two routes I could have gone. I could have gone into broadcasting, or I could have gone into IT. I chose broadcasting. This was Arizona. What I should have done is chose air conditioning school. Because those guys have 4 houses now, and they're never out of work every summer. What you have to do is look for something that people need every single day. And what we do when we have a house, I mean, some people say that as a real estate broker that it's just a couple of forms. Oh, he just fills out a couple of forms and then he collects his check. Let me tell you something. I've dealt with hoarders. I've dealt with rats. I've cleaned toilets. I've had to shut toilets down when the photographer's on the way. I've had overflowing toilets. I've had so much stuff that I never thought I would have to do. You have to coach people, psychologists, get it to the finish line. But it is the most satisfying thing to get a project, clean it up, sell it, and have a happy seller and a happy buyer. And be responsible for both ends. And if you're responsible and take responsibility, you will be successful. I've got 2 sales cooking right now. We're closing this week, thank God. And it's up, it's down. It goes sideways sometimes. But I did come from a corporate environment, not tech. I was at CBS News and I was at ABC News. I was a reporter for 3 years. The punitive environment in corporate, I couldn't deal with. Working for yourself, it's a harder road, it's a rockier road, it's a higher climb, but there's no price for freedom. I did bring some of those videography skills with me to this day, so if anybody's looking for something we call a video resume, talk to me or talk to Albert, and we can get you on the right track to get that Instagram post, that minute. That's going to be the biggest difference between a video or a stack of resumes.
Hello, my name is Wilburn. I'm a social worker for ILS Health. I'm basically a subcontractor for Kaiser. So if you like helping people, then you might want to do my kind of career. But I was always just in this field. I made a transition. So I was 9 years a senior operations manager at the Santa Clara Convention Center doing transportation management, closing out all the roads, making sure the conferences ran good and that kind of stuff. And I said, wow, this is kind of a really boring job. Like, I'm really just helping people get places faster and optimizing transportation routes and making sure everything's running smooth. I did it for 9 years. I'm like, oh my God, kill me. So I wanted to help the people where I grew up at. I grew up in a very disenfranchised area of San Jose, East San Jose. I wanted to become a community organizer. So I went back to school because I got my BA in community organizing, and I said, you know what, I want a master's. So let me work in public policy. I really want to help the homeless. So I was working for a Seaver Shopping Center for a few years. Then I got my master's with the focus of homelessness and housing. Then I went to work for the city of San Jose on a homeless response team, designing all the tiny home villages for the city of San Jose. And I said, wow, this is cool. This is really great. So I made a transition again from government to running a shelter. The city's like, you really have a great heart for helping people. Would you want to run the largest family shelter for Santa Clara County? Sure. So I was running during the pandemic too, the largest family shelter. And then I kind of, got kind of burnt out on that a little bit. So I wanted to just go more like clerical work. So I became a grant writer. Actually, no, let me back up a little bit. I was a program manager for YCD in San Francisco, out at Hunters Point, doing housing programs. So during that, I was doing tenant stabilization for anti-displacement programs, stabilizing people during the pandemic and post-pandemic, and in all the communities for District 10 and District 11. I had a team of 16 employees, and then I started really getting into grant writing. I wrote my first grant and got it for $4.5 million for a reentry program. Then I got another one for community integration and community engagement for $750,000. And then I said, you know what, I'm really good at grant writing because I like using GIS. Also, I have a vast certification in GIS, pulling data, telling a story with the data, and telling a story to funders. So I could develop programs to actually make great impact into different franchise communities. So then I became a grant writer for Shelter Inc. There I got another $15 million for domestic violence programs. Other home shelters. I started 3 mental health programs in Sacramento, and those programs are still up and running. But then I got laid off because when you do that much volume at once, they had to lay off all middle management in order to float the bill for the government. Because when you do government contracts, you have to pay the first quarter and then seek reimbursement. So $15 million was a bit much for the company. So then I was looking for work, and then I'm like, you know what, Kaiser hired. So now I'm at Kaiser, I love it. I'm out of management, I really help people. I have $30K at my disposal just to help people move from the streets into housing. And I get to use all my skills. I'm getting my doctorate right now. My dissertation is on anti-displacement of Native Hawaiians in Hawaii. I'll be speaking at the Hawaiian State Conference on my data and my research in 2 weeks. So if you're in Honolulu, come check me out. Yeah, it's never too late to go back to school. And if you really want to get a doctorate, I'm actually I want to student at USC, one of the top programs in homelessness in the country. So if you really want to make an impact and help people, please talk to me after.
Hey everybody, I'm Mark Sackett. I'm crazy impressed by all you guys. Sometimes I own 2 companies and 13 divisions of those companies. So I'm a award-winning graphic designer, art director, filmmaker, music producer, public speaker, publisher, and a few other things. And I only have a 2-year college degree. I've never been a huge fan of advanced education because everybody I know that has advanced degrees, nothing personal, is spending the next 25 years paying them off. So I really, when I was in college, and none of you, I don't think anybody here is even close to my age. So I graduated college in 1979. I'm 67 years old. I realized that education for me had to be the doing of it and the making of it. And I would learn because I'm a smart guy and and I'm highly absorbent. So I took my first year, I went to a 2-year junior college, got a basic graphic design degree, and then I started, I had saved $17,000 against this massive amount of money I was going to need to go to Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, and it was $30,000 a trimester at the time, which was 90 grand a year in 1980. And I was just like, well, that's not gonna happen. My parents couldn't pay for any college, so they were both working people. And so I ended up taking $17,000 and buying $17,000 worth of books and magazine subscriptions, and basically taught myself the rest of it. And then started my own company 6 months out of college called Raintree Total Design. And that became fairly successful. I won a crap load of awards at the big awards, Addy Awards. And everybody in the room was like, if you've ever been to an award show, they're like, they're tables of 10 and you're eating chicken. And I was in the very back with the printers, and all the big agencies were up front. And then they called my name, Raintree Total Design, Gold Award. And I'm like 4 martinis in. And I'm like, this guy's like, one of the printers next to me, I had printed something with him. He's like, hey. I'm like, what? And he goes, they just called your name. And I'm like, for what? And he goes, your name's on the screen. I think you have to go up there. And I'm like, really? And everybody's looking around like, where is this guy? Is he here? And so I start walking through all these tables, and I get up there, and I won the gold award in like the menu category. And then I'm walking back through the tables and they called my name again and I won the gold award in the best ad campaign for Hyatt Hotels. And I was just like, well, crap. And you got these like cute trophies. And so by the end of the night, I had 8 stacked up on the table and everybody's like, who's this kid in the back of the room? And from that, I got a job offer from a man named John Mueller who really, mentored me and was like very impressed with my work. And I worked there for 5 years and then moved out here because he didn't want to open an office in California and I fell in love with San Francisco. So I moved here from Kansas City in 1988 and I've been here ever since. And I've really built my career in this city. And I talk about a lot of things when I'm speaking. I talk about living a creative life. I talk about powerful networking and how to build powerful and passionate relationships based in giving. I talk about career. I talk about getting your story right in your head. How many people in this room love what they do for a living? Raise your hands high. That's kind of sad. Like not more hands went up. You notice that most of the people on stage, everybody raise your hand? I wasn't looking. I was hoping that everybody up here did. But 70% of all Americans don't like what they do for a living. And if they felt that they had a better opportunity, would jump at it. And my networking events that I do are about helping you to get there. And so I'll talk about it later on, but I live a creative life. And I have always taken my hobbies and turned them into companies. And then I figure if it's a hobby, presumably I love it. If I love it, presumably I'm going to work hard at it and be passionate about it. And then that brings the money. Unlike what my mother said, which was come home and work at Hallmark. So for me, it was always about following my own path and the money would come if I loved what I did. And fortunately it has. So that's what I do, sort of. It's hard to explain sometimes when I'm talking about everything, so.
Yeah, so thank you all for sharing what it is that you do. I know Jerry and Mark did a really great job of answering the second and sort of third question that I had, which is what kind of educational attainment do you need and how did you break into that career? And the reason why I asked that question is because a lot of tech workers and just folks who are in transition generally are confused or unsure as to how they make that transition because sometimes that transition is not one-to-one. So if you are a software developer right now and you want to become a graphic designer, or if you're a marketing manager and you want to work in the government, what is it that you do to make that transition? Who are you networking with? How are you getting there? And so the second question for all of you, and I'll start with Mark, is you answered this one a little bit already, is how did you acquire that education and how did you break in and ultimately show people that you were a credible person in terms of the type of work that you wanted to do?
I don't know if anybody here is a designer or an art director or a filmmaker. You're creative, you make things, okay? And if you are, you probably have a portfolio. And I recently was cleaning out I live south of Market in a giant historic warehouse where all of my companies are and my event space and some other things that I do. And I found my old college portfolio and I was like, oh my God. And so I unzipped it. I dusted it off and unzipped it and I looked at it and I thought, oh my, how could anybody have ever hired me from this shit that's in here? And like, I don't know, I mean, I guess at the time I just thought it was fantastic, but like I looked at it now and I'm like, I can't even believe I showed this to anybody. And I think that this is true for anybody in any career. It's about refinement, right? What do you love to do? How do you get good at that? How do you refine that? How do you adjust that? I think that what happens so often is people decide, I'm gonna do this. And then you go get your education in whatever way that comes. And then you start following that path. Now that's great if you need to do that if you're a surgeon or a lawyer, I suppose, or any type of a doctor. But there's so many careers where you might get a certification or two, right? And then you can keep moving on. But I think for me, it's always been about that constantly, the absorbency that I talked about. It's about being absorbent, constantly learning, trying to learn new things and having broad conversations. I rarely talk to that many people in the creative field anymore because I know so many people. I talk to people outside the creative field because I think I might get to learn something. So I think that's kind of, for me, at least what I've found works.
For me, it was more like just knowing people. Back when I was running, back when I was back in San Jose State, I was running two different research teams. One doing door-to-door assessments on communities to see how they feel about homelessness in our community. The other one was actually doing scholarly work trying to find zoning allowances for tiny homes. Back in 2016, there was no established zoning code to actually build tiny homes, to actually house the homeless. So I kept on like going to the different talks, and I ran up with a bunch of city officials. So I'm like, hey, they're launching Safe Park, which is a new concept of homelessness treatment. So, and then I said, hey, this is what I'm working on. And then they said, well, we really like your research. Why don't you come work for us at the city? Sure. So I got, and it turned out to be the director of housing I was always running with. And then, so I got a really lucrative job on a homeless response team designing these shelters. Because I spent like 4 years just researching for my thesis on how tiny homes can end homelessness. So that's what kind of was the launch. And then to this day, I still talk to think tanks on homelessness because I'm getting my doctorate. So I'm like, how do we end this problem? What is creative? What is innovative? What hasn't been done yet? What can we try next? And in California, we have unlimited funding, basically. So it's kind of like a test ground. So no, literally, like, no, literally, as an accomplished grant writer that's got over $15 million in government grants, anything could be done, honestly. Like I could think of an idea. If I could pitch it, I could get the funding for it, bro. Like literally, I'm that confident. Anyways, it's networking and it's like who you know.
Very much like Mark, I learned by doing. And when I got my education in broadcasting in Arizona, that was great, but that just gets you, it's basically your driver's license. Once you go into an actual news studio and actually have to do assignments and complete them, they're not suggestions, they're assignments. You have to complete them, get them on the air, you're gonna fail, which is a great teacher, failure. But luckily my mentors stuck with me. They said, you can get better, here's how you're gonna do this. You have to come in on Saturday mornings early, you have to get it done, and you have to put in the work. So the stuff I learned in broadcasting, shooting, editing, all that stuff, I bring with me today in my real estate business. I make sure the videos are crisp. I have a drone license. You have to have drone video now. You have to have 4K video, walkthroughs, music. Everybody here knows what a zeitgeist is, right? It's the top, it's the pinnacle, it's what's happening now. Politics aside, Kamala HQ is the zeitgeist. They have the crispest, most accurate, quickest videos. Those things are going to get your points across rather than the older way, which there's room and there's a place for long form. But in tech and in communication, it's that point that you have, what, Albert, 2 seconds to make?
Yeah, 5 seconds, 10 seconds.
5 or 10.
Yeah.
And you have to, so you take everything that you've ever known, whether it's music, whether it's math, whether it's photography, and everything, like Mick Jones from the class says, every time you pick up a guitar, that's you. Everything that you do with it is you. And now, as you go into your next phase of your jobs, in your careers, not only do you have the education, but you bring every single experience you've ever had to the table, and that makes you unique, and that gets you your place. Because today is day one, and tomorrow again is day one. There's no room for the past.
Well, Albert, you set it up as skills. What skills do I need to get to that next job?
Or how you fell into your job.
Or fell into. So what I'm going to say is, for school's expensive. We know that. When I had the opportunity to go to graduate school to get my master's, I did it because I had a specific purpose. So I went to Duke to get a global management degree because I was getting ready for a 3-year expat assignment in Switzerland. So I had a purpose, and everything at school is relevant. Now, after that, there's other choices. You can take something on masterclass, you can watch YouTube videos. I like what Mark said, it's experiences. Get yourself the skills by doing. Same thing here, right? You're taking all of your previous skills and you're applying it somewhere else. So where I had the opportunity to do this, there's a couple of stories I'm going to share with you. The first one was I've always been on stage presenting or teaching someone to present, but I knew nothing about what happened backstage. Well, luckily there was someone in my network that invited me, would you like to help support backstage? So does everyone know what a green room is? Green rooms? It's where the talent goes to just get ready mentally, physically, before they take the stage. So as a result of joining that production company as a temporary employee, I learned how to run green rooms. So I run green rooms for Tony Robbins, for Gary Vaynerchuk, for 3 of the Shark Tank judges. But really what that gave me was I got to see how the best of the best prepare. What do they do before the event? What do they do at the event? How do they get themselves totally ready before they take the stage? So just by running green rooms, setting up green rooms, I learned a lot about how to prepare others for the stage. So that's one. The second story is a pandemic story. So in San Jose, there's a non-denominational church. So this is kind of familiar to me. It's called the Center for Spiritual Living. And I had the opportunity to join the team that's back there. I knew nothing about what's back there. Well, first of all, let's give them a round of applause. They make us look good. So during that stint, I learned how to run Zoom at an advanced level, how to run a soundboard, how to run production equipment, how to manage all this equipment up here. And I did that just for training purposes, for curiosity, and then the pandemic hit. So instead of the entire congregation being here, nobody was in the venue. There was only 10 of us allowed at the venue. Everybody else was online. And that's when it kicked into high gear. Everything mattered. Think about what went on intellectually and emotionally during the pandemic. People need messages. They need community. So my skills got rapidly developed because we had to deliver for the congregation. And today, I can literally step in and run something back there if necessary. For my clients, I'll give them advice. If you're going to be on stage, buy this over-the-ear microphone. If you're holding a microphone, make sure you hold it this close to your mouth for optimal recording purposes. So my invitation to you, there's something that you're doing right now. List how that could be of service to anyone that you're interviewing with. Secondly, if you're taking a class, master class, YouTube class, formal class, make sure that it has a purpose. We don't have time to waste on classes that are just for fun. Right? Take classes that are intentional. Of course, still take classes that are for fun. But if you're taking a professional class, be very intentional about it.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I definitely use a lot of the skills I learned actually in college, probably more so than I guess most people or anyone else on this panel, just given the industry that I'm in. Teaching students math, very tied to the academics. But yeah, definitely within my career, being in tech, and I was always really curious about how to use my math to solve real world problems. And I think that was really my motivation for learning math. Is like, I feel like math is such a great tool to apply an analytic structure to any kind of problem that I'm solving. And in finding those skills, these days, there's all kinds of online courses that you can take. And that is definitely how I help myself, taking courses through like Coursera, looking at videos on YouTube. And then also, I went out there and you kind of take on like these freelancing projects, work with these small to mid-sized companies. They have some, set of data that they're looking to get analyzed. And you have to just go there talk with them, figure out what questions they want answered, and then use, your current knowledge base and research skills to figure out how to answer those questions with the resources that you have. So yeah, I think it's all about the little steps. Figure out where you need to be helpful, and then once you know what the problem is, figure out how to solve it, via all the resources you have, whether that's connecting with other people, whether that's, researching online, whether that's taking, a month-long course, just developing as the need arises really helped me find some different career directions. Yeah.
Awesome. So having mostly tumbled my way through this entire transition, I'm going to echo what a lot of you have already said, which is going to really follow through the lines of my teachers, having been curiosity, recognizing that nothing has ever been wasted in my entire career, even as I completely started off from ground zero, and also experience, because I had no idea that hats were going to be where I would end up. Like, there is not a single part of me that a year and a half ago knew that I would even be wearing a hat. Like, these are not things that I didn't even wear hats before. However, when I'm
Looks good.
Thank you. But I literally fell into this. I found myself literally from one day to the next, having a completely full calendar, to all of a sudden having an entire day at my disposal with basically no idea what to do with it. And I started just creating, and it was sort of a random idea. I'd seen a little toddler on Instagram wearing this onesie covered in pom-poms, and I wanted to make one for myself, but it turned out it requires a lot more pom-poms when you're a full adult human. And so I had a hat laying around, and I was like, well, if I can't make a onesie, I can make a hat. And I put pom-poms on a hat, and then I put googly eyes on a hat. And then it literally just went from following this curiosity. For whatever reason, hats were a medium that I understood. And the curiosity of that led me to just getting a little bit obsessed. And I had no creative talents inside of me that I knew of, and all of a sudden I was making something new, and I was using materials that I'd never touched before, and I was trying out new types of glue. I mean, it was just a really random experimentation, and yet I was so excited about this hat that I had in front of me that I spent hours diving into it and getting excited about it and making sure every single person that was around me knew that, hey, look at this cool thing that I just finished. And because of that curiosity and that excitement, I found myself at a market a couple months later talking to a hat shop, obsessing about their hats, which is the one that's on my head. And I was wearing one of my hats, and they were obsessed with mine, and they invited me to their shop. And the moment I got there, I felt like I was home. And I'd never been there before, and I'd never even been in a workshop like that. And yet there was something in me that was just ready to unleash all of this excitement and this enthusiasm that was palpable to the people that I was talking to about hats. I mean, it's just, you really have no idea. And so having the courage to continue to just follow these curiosities, these obsessions, these things that just make you want to keep learning something, that allow you to set your ego aside and say, you know what, I don't know a single thing about what I'm doing right now, but something in it tells me to just dive a little bit deeper. And you have no idea where you might find yourself as you continue to find the next step and the next step and the next step, because it's led me from the hats, which I love, and I still make my hats, and yet times are tough right now. Selling luxury goods or selling products that are, we don't have as much disposable income anymore. So that's led me to finding other small businesses that I can work with that can also feel that passion that I have for working with small businesses, working with individuals. Just continuing to go one step after the next has led me to this place that I never could have imagined would ever be something that my life would look like. And now I'm at the point where, as I said earlier, this is not the first time I've quit tech, or tech has quit me, but this is the time where I'm choosing to stick with it, and it requires a lot of courage to keep stepping forward day after day after day, knowing that that siren call is back there saying, just go back to that thing that made sense, go back to that thing that was comfortable, go back to that thing that was secure in some capacity or another. And yet I've never been happier, and I've never felt more connected to myself and to this life that I'm building for myself, because I've continued to recognize that those curiosities have a purpose. And everything that I've done in my past career as a customer success manager, as a program manager, as a project manager, there are nuggets within those things that I can apply to any project, that I can apply to any relationship, that I can apply to any new interaction and any new opportunity. And so I've been able to learn how to trust myself and trust my past while there is not a single idea of what in the heck I'm going to be doing a week from now. So curiosity, recognizing that nothing is ever wasted, and just go through the experiences again and again and again until you begin to feel like, okay, I can trust me even if I can't necessarily trust everything out there that just looks like chaos.
Kudos, that's awesome.
Yes,
Yeah.
cool.
Yes. So let's talk about government in the larger sense, and then I'll kind of narrow it down to the library. So if you want to break into government, actually, this is a participatory part of the program. Question for you guys. Raise your hand if you think government is innovative, cutting edge, yeah. Jerry would say that. You worked at the same thing.
Well, they have endless budgets.
Yeah.
And then how many of you think that government is stable, consistent, right? Stable, consistent. Exactly. So think about if you want to break into government.
Is that a third option?
Sorry.
Can we talk about San Francisco government?
So if you want to break
City of San
into,
Francisco's here.
if you want to break into government, right? How are you going to do that, right? It's about, they want consistency and they want to know who you are and they want to be able to rely on you. And how do they do that? They love to do auditions, meaning they love people who volunteer. I think one of you guys talked about giving back, helping your community. That's like an audition for government, right? I mean, because government agencies always need volunteers. And so that's an opportunity to show off your skills, what you can do for government, how you can work for them. And so, again, they like the consistency. And so they want to see you in action. They want to see if you have the potential in order to hire you, because again, they are risk averse, unlike high tech, very risk averse. So they are not going to take a chance on candidates unless they've seen you in action or they know somebody who knows you, right, Jerry? Right?
Yeah.
Unless somebody knows you. So that's the key to breaking into government, is doing that. So how did I get my start, right? So actually, I was 12 years old, and a librarian came to my classroom, talked about the library, and said, hey, we need volunteers to help shelf. Well, I already knew. At 14 years old, I needed to pay for college. Like, mom and dad, they're not going to pay for it. I'm going to pay for it on my own. And so I was like, well, 12 years old, okay, let's volunteer. I did like 4 hours a week, on the weekend, shelving books, didn't think anything too much of it. And then when I was 14, lo and behold, there was a job position available. I said, okay, we'll just apply. Well, they already knew who I was. They already had seen what I had done. They already showed that I shelved a cart in 1 hour or left flat. So they were like, you know what? We're willing to take a chance on you. But I was like, you know what? I told my colleagues, I said, you know what? I'm not going to be a librarian. I am not going to be one of those people that sits on the desk that shushes people every single day, telling them to be quiet and taking their put your shoes back on and get out of the building. And I ended up being one of them because I had an amazing interaction with a library patron that really changed my life. Being able to help people, being able to get somebody that their next opportunity, honestly, has been one of the highlights of my career. And I can tell you, being a librarian is like the tale of being on a roller coaster, a little bit, because one day you could be somebody's hero, and then another day they could be telling you 4-letter words to your face. You just don't know. You have no idea, because people take their emotional baggage and right, Jerry? And then they bring it to the library and they love to take it out on somebody else. So you never know. So there are benefits and detractions. But I think the skill set is being willing to high customer service, right? Customer service is number one, especially in a 7-day operation like the library. We are helping people every day. So customer service is always paramount. And so if you have retail experience, if you have customer service experience, that is going to be a way in if you want to be a librarian. So those are some of the things that I think, can help you break in. Now, I know what you're thinking, Cheryl. I don't have 4 hours on the weekend. I've got kids. I've got, I've got other things going on. What about a 1-hour informational interview? I can tell you that with government, they are always willing to help out other people. If you see right, Jerry, if you see somebody on LinkedIn and you want to be in their department, give them a call, email them, reach out, be brave. What's the worst thing they could say? No. Who cares? You just move on to the next person. There's a dime a dozen, right? And so really and truly informational interviews are a gateway to an opportunity to show off your skills, but also to learn more from somebody else. And then to do the big ask at the end. Hey, do you know of anybody who has opportunities either at this organization or somewhere else? And most likely, they're gonna say yes, because the network is very, very small in government. We all hang out, we all bros, sisters, we all hang out with each other. So, one person definitely knows a whole bunch of people. So that's my fresh take on government, and I'll turn it back to you, Albert.
Yes. All right, so we learned a little bit about what everybody does here and how they transitioned into it. Next question is really important. So how many of those of you who have wanted to quit tech are worried that you're not going to make the same money as you did before? Whether you're doing $300,000-$400,000 total comp with that NVIDIA stock or whatever you've got,
Yeah.
or you've got a $150,000 to $200,000 salary and you're going to miss the free laundry, the free lunch, and all of that so forth. So obviously leaving tech is going to be a little bit of a shock to your wallet. And you're trading some things off, obviously. And so the next question I have for the panel here is, when it comes to the work that you do, you're not willing to, I think, talk about it openly, but hey, we like talking about money. So how much do you make? What are some of the benefits that you get to enjoy that may not necessarily be the free food or the free anything? And how does everything else work in terms of the benefits, fringe benefits, and so forth? So talk a little bit about that. And I think I know where you're going to start with first, right? Start with the P word.
Oh, my favorite word. My favorite word is pension, friends. Yes, I'm going to tell you, you're not going to be a multimillionaire. You are never, ever going to be a millionaire by working in government. I'll just tell you right there.
Not unless you Nancy Pelosi with stock trade. Right?
Well, yeah, actually, yeah, you can, yeah, that's true. She made the killing. So here's the thing. Our salaries are all public information. So, I could tell you how much I make, but you can also search for it on Transparent California. Remember, you pay my salary, right? If you live in the county of Santa Clara, you know how much I make. Right? You know how much everybody makes, right? You look at my position, you can see the beginning salary and you can see the final salary. It's all the mystery's gone, you guys. You can find out everything. So there's no mystery about that. Sorry, your second question was, sorry.
The other benefits that go with the job. So
oh, okay. Rose and thorn. Okay, so the thorns, let's start with the thorns because let's just get it out there. The money, right? You're not gonna make that much. But when you go to bed at night and you put your head on that pillow, you can rest assured that in 2 weeks, every 2 weeks, you're gonna get a paycheck in your bank account. That's the nice thing about working for government. I can sleep at night knowing that there's going to be a paycheck as long as I don't screw up, as long as I don't murder somebody in the library or, I think I'm going to be okay. The drawbacks are that you have to work, at least in my positions, a lot of nights and weekends. There are a lot. I mean, look, I used to host events every single Monday and Tuesday night. I would work from 12 to 10 o'clock at night, and that's just government, right? Some government jobs are Monday through Friday, and others, like mine, were, nights, weekends. You don't know how many weddings I missed, birthday parties, family gatherings I've missed because I've had to work, right? Sometimes you can't take that day off. Sometimes you just have big events that are going on and you have to sacrifice a piece. But the glory is that when you see the kids' smiling faces, or somebody comes up to you and tells you, hey, Cheryl, hey, thanks for hosting that seminar with Albert. Actually, I used one of his job tips, and lo and behold, I got a job offer last week. Like, that is exciting to hear. That is what makes it worth everything. Remember, you're going to be a millionaire in your heart. Maybe not in your pocketbook, but in your heart, you'll be a millionaire. When I peace out of my job, I can peace out knowing that I'm going to have a check in the mail every month. And that is nice. I'm going to tell you, when I'm going to sit at the beach at 50-something years old, kicking back, I know that paycheck's going to come in and it's going to be nice. But again, I have a lot of years in. So if you're just starting, depending on your age bracket, like if you're like closer to maybe sunsetting, like 50, it's going to be a little bit harder, right? The thing is, you need to vest, right? In order to vest in government, you need at least 5 years, and you have to sit still in one location. You could get promoted in that same organization, but you have to sit still for at least 5 years in order to be vested. And then that means that you get that pension, that check coming in. Now, that only happens after maybe 50, 55, depending on when you piece out of your job. So those are some of the things. I can go more about the benefits. Benefits are good. The one benefit this week that I haven't posted on social media, but I will. I got to meet my childhood idol this week. I got to meet Chef Martin this week. And that was pretty awesome. We were doing social media reels because he's coming to the library for Lunar New Year in January. He's coming to all 8 libraries, and being able to interact with Chef Martin, I was telling my family, I said, oh, I'm scared. He could be a real jerk. I don't know. And then when I met him, nicest guy, charismatic, and he said, Cheryl, you know what? I've been doing this all these years, and I love it. It brings me joy. This is what I live for. And here's Martin. If Yan can cook, so can you. And he was a riot, and he had so much fun. That was the highlight of my week. So I do get to meet stars. I get to meet Albert, Anthony, Sandy. I get to meet local stars. So yeah.
So once we move from stability into, I would consider myself right now in the messy middle. I have made the decision to leave tech, and I am facing towards the exact uncertain and unknown. And while originally that meant that I felt a lot of insecurity and a lot of fear and I don't have that paycheck coming in 2 weeks. My hours can fluctuate from week to week, from month to month. Initially, that required a lot of this courage thing that I was talking about ahead of time, which is also just a dedication to continuing to make my way forward. And then recently, somebody gave me a little bit of a reframe, and what she said is that people who are creating their lives the way that we are, we have to readjust from thinking about this consistent every single week thing, and we have to start thinking about our life in seasons. And so what that means is that in the summer months, we save up the harvest so that when the winter months come, we have something to lean on. We have something that we've built, that we've scurried away, or the little squirrel keeping all the acorns inside of the tree, because winter does happen. There are lots of fluctuations. There are seasonal changes. You may be going into a field where the holiday months are the busiest, and you may be going into an industry where the holiday months are the quietest. You just don't know, because you might not know where you're headed and what direction you want to go in. And so it's been really important for me to hold on to that reframe because I'll be honest with you, it's feeling like winter right now. It's feeling very much like winter as I continue to move forward and as I find myself continuing to dedicate myself to this path of creating life the way that I wanted. And a lot of that comes with freedom. There's a lot of freedom. I can decide, okay, I just earlier this week, I flew to San Diego for a few days to do some work with the jeweler that I work with. And that was great because I didn't have to check in with anybody about that. I could just say, I'm just gonna go because it works with my schedule. And I also am finding myself starting a new role later this week that's going to allow me to have a little bit more of that stability, but is still going to allow me to have the flexibility to continue to pursue all of these things that bring me a lot of joy and that feel like they're in alignment comparatively to things that I've had before. So while there are definitely days where I miss those tech paychecks, because don't get me wrong, I definitely do, those golden handcuffs are very pretty. I am also finding that I can continue to walk down this route and know that the possibilities are endless. So there may not be a consistent paycheck or somebody who's paying for my 401k or matching it. There isn't somebody who's saying, here's your healthcare and how it's going to be set up. I now have to figure those things out for myself. And that can be either scary or it can be exciting. And so I'm finding that there's just a lot of times where I'm continuing to remind myself, all right, we're heading into spring soon. So that's good to know. Or, all right, we got to just scurry some more away and just know that maybe I do need to sacrifice a little bit more right now. Maybe I need to make the decision not to go on the family vacation because it just doesn't make sense for me right now. And that's okay. And that's a dedication to myself and to the path that I want to choose to follow. And again, I may have to make changes later in the future, but right now I'm making the best decisions that I can make to continue down this path, which is allowing me to feel more whole and more aligned with myself. And that's what I'm going to keep on doing.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'm in a pretty similar position to you. Starting your own business is a pretty risky venture. And there's a lot of uncertainty around that, particularly in regards to, say, like finding paying clients. You never quite know, how long they're going to be willing to stay with you. Maybe a little more stable in the academic realm. Students will often, at least stick around a year with you through the academic year for you to help them out. But yeah, especially if you're talking about, freelancing and, you get these kind of one-off projects that can last, a month or a few months or whatever. They can kind of just come and go with the seasons. And, you need to be prepared for the leaner months that you're definitely going to have. So, if you're starting off in tech, as we all know, the salaries are pretty high there. Live below your means, save up some money so that if you do want to transition out of tech, you do have that flexibility to find your path a little bit at a time. In terms of benefits and stuff, I think was, as I mentioned before, just flexibility of scheduling. Not having to ask your boss, oh, hey, I have that concert I want to go to, on Friday. Can I have Friday off so, I get an early start, get the good seats. I'm my own boss. I can just give myself permission. Oh, I'm taking Friday off. Let's go to that concert. I would say that's, the flexibility is the main benefit, but yeah, you do have to be very good with your financial planning. You're responsible for your own healthcare, you're responsible for your own taxes, you're responsible for, getting out there and trying to find your own clients. So they go together, a lot of responsibility, but a lot of freedom.
Thanks, Wesley. Question, it's about compensation. So I want you to write two things down. Compensation is the factor of who you choose, and secondly, who chooses you. So let's talk about who you choose. You want to choose someone, a company, a client who appreciates what you do, who has budget to pay for what you do, and you want to know that they're doing some good stuff in the world. So in terms of who I've selected, These are leaders. They have somewhere in their career journey, I want to be Chief Marketing Officer, CEO, General Counsel. I want to be in a position of leadership, and that happens to be in my sweet spot. I also am looking at the community of how many people know what a B Corp is? B Corp.
Yeah.
Okay. So I choose as clients any company that is a certified B Corp or someone that is on the road to certification, because B Corps are not only audited for their financial performance, they're audited for their impact. There's 17 areas of impact: planet, community, education, infrastructure. Because they're doing good work in the world, I love having them as clients. One quick story: if you're looking for a job, there's 200 B Corps here in the Bay Area. I visited a B Corp recently. If you're familiar with a brand called Torani, they're the syrups that we put into our drinks and our coffees. So I went to the manufacturing plant. Through the pandemic, they were looking to relocate people from South City to San Leandro. And they wanted to make sure they brought everybody to the new location. So they interviewed everybody twice to find out what will it take to get you over there. And they succeeded. So they've never, ever had a layoff. Think about that. Never, ever. 100 years old, never had a layoff. It's because they run a company in the right way. So yeah, if you're looking, make sure, look at all the B Corps, look at all of their job openings. I would start there. You can count on them to take care of you. So that's the who you choose. Who chooses you? You need to be someone who stands out from the crowd. There's a unique skill set, whether it's shelving books, right, or putting books back at a record time, tapping into creative energies, how math solves the world, how we use drones to market our services, getting grants. There is something that you can do way better than anyone else, and if you can't do it at that level yet, you're getting paid at average rates. You want to do what you do at an exceptional level. Go all in, study, practice. Then when you get to the interview table, you're able to charge Louis Vuitton instead of Walmart prices. You want to do that. Just as a point of reference, because I work with executives, they have budget, they have stakes. A retainer contract, if you're signing up with our company, $30K for 6 months. That's what you want to play at, ideally. Charge the most that you can charge in your industry. You'll not only love what you do, you'll get paid what you're worth.
May I have a question again, Albert?
Yeah, so we're talking about compensation, benefits, and what to expect if somebody were to go from their high-flying tech salary to what it is that you're doing.
Okay, so I went from corporate, CBS and ABC, 401k, paycheck every week. They paid your lunches. They paid you not to take lunch. They gave you a lunch penalty, and they paid you not to take lunch. But you were expected not to take lunch. You had to work for 8.5 hours straight. Company car, but I wanted to do photography outside to get extra money. They said, no way. That's our money. You can't do it. So I had to I thought that while it works for many, many people, and maybe they have kids, that they have to have that check because they have to have a dental plan. They have to have this stuff. It's not just about them. I'm a single person. I thought, no, I'll try it on my own. Thank you very much. I walked out into nothing. And then I got into real estate. Now, everybody, let's do some quick math. Quick math. Let's say the average house in the Bay Area is about $1.1 million, right? What is 2.5% of that?
12,000.
2.5% of $1 million.
We do have a mathematician.
2.5%. 2.5% of $1 million is $25,000.
Yeah.
Now, if you go and sell one house, if you sell 4 a year, that's $100,000. If you go and take $2,000, instead of going to Vegas or buying the Louis Vuitton or buying the new kicks, but if you buy 2 printers and a stack of paper, you could send out reams of flyers and get another listing and another listing and another listing, where I don't have to depend on a company, which I don't trust corporate. I don't trust the government. You know who I trust? I trust myself. And I think I'm gonna swim harder and I'm gonna do more for myself than I'm my own best interest, and you are your own best interest yourself. I understand if you have to have that corporate job because you have little ones, or you have a mortgage, or you can't, your situation. But if you're free and you want to do it, the opportunities are endless, absolutely endless. One very good perk about my job, one thing that I miss is, of course, the paychecks and the free lunches, getting paid for lunch. But one thing is I have rentals all over San Francisco. What does that mean? I have bathrooms all over San Francisco. Anyway, any neighborhood I'm in, I'm like, I'm taking 5 minutes. I'm going to go show this apartment. I'm going to make a quick video of this apartment for my TikTok and for my YouTube and put it out there. Look what I've got here. And somebody somewhere is going, hey, you sold a house. I got to sell this house, man. It's in Nevada. It's $1.5 million. What's $1.5 million times 0.25%? It's about $42,000. You do that 3 times, then you're going to be like, you know what? I think I can do this. And you can. The one thing about real estate, and I think a lot of people have heard about this in the past year, is that a lot of companies, you're a former realtor, a lot of companies, their management said that you have to charge 6%. It's the industry standard, but some of them intimated that it was the law. It's not the law. You can charge 6, you can charge 2, you can charge 10. You can charge whatever you want, as long as you and the client agree to what you're charging. So the world is yours. And like, there's a couple of sayings, and one of them says that a salary is what they give you to give up your dreams. And another one is plan your life, or else somebody's going to plan it for you. And you know what they want you to do? They want you to be at the desk at 9 o'clock doing what they say. If you're okay with that, take the money and run. That's fine. Do your 30 years. Good for you. That's awesome. But if you want something different, and if you want to pivot, that option is there too, because we live in the greatest country in the world. And everybody can do it if they want to do it. Great, clean toilet. I'm running for president of the United States of America.
Wow, that is really tough to follow. Social work. So I'm I'm a clinical social worker. So I make $80K a year for Kaiser. When I was running shelters, I started my MSWs. People with masters starting off in this field of social work at $63,000. And the way I normally select them is really strong personalities, like survivors of domestic violence, or formerly homeless, or ones with foster youth, because they have to have the heart to do the job. If you don't have the right kind of motives to want to do that kind of work, then it's just not for you, because it's fulfilling in your heart. And also it helps a lot just with your mental state too as well. Because if you've suffered past trauma, you heal yourself by helping others often. And then when I was working in San Francisco, I would hire at a range, because people with high school diplomas would work for me, or bachelor's people. So I would pay them anywhere from 60 to 24,000, just kind of on range. And then so that's basically the range. And as a freelance grant writer, I charge $75 an hour, or I charge 3% for $10 million. Like you said, it was 2.5, right? But 3% is $30,000. So every grant I get for $1 million, I get a $30,000 bonus. So that's standard industry for grant writing too as well. And then normal rate is $75 an hour if you're a good grant writer. So I do that as a side hustle. There's 2 grant writing cycles. Government grants come out at the end of the fiscal cycle and in winter. So I'm hustling hard during summer and during winter, but in spring and fall, I'm just chilling. And so that's how I get my extra money. And Rose and the Thorns about being a social worker. Dealing with people with suicidal ideations and talking them down and saving their lives. I saved 3 lives this year. And I just felt it in my heart. So like, you could see the look in this man's eyes, like, dude, you saved my life. Like, and he couldn't see it for himself. I'm like, I see something that you don't see. Let me help you. And I just had to make him believe in himself. And I got him into the hospital finally. And I saved his life. And he was not homeless. He was someone who was like in deep depression and sitting in a 4-bedroom house by himself and just kind of slowly dying, like in the inside. So I showed up, I'm like, man, what is going on with you? So anyways, that was one of the biggest wins I had this year. And then Kaiser itself, they're very big on self-care. So if you say, I just had a rough day, I'm gonna go to the beach on the clock, go ahead. I need to go for a long walk. I just dealt with like, this kid was going through like child abuse and trauma, and it was very hard on me. So it's like, you know, but you have to have the heart to do this because it's like why you're doing it, it really matters. And if you want something that really means something to you, then go to social work.
So I'm not quite sure what to say here. I've had years where I've made $300,000. I've had years where I've made 0. I started my business in 1990, my first business. I never intended to have a business. Never thought I would work for myself. I always thought I would get a paycheck and a gold watch. And when I moved, 7 months after I moved here, I had a job and I got laid off. I moved across the country to work for this internationally award-winning design firm, and they decided to, after 7 months, after giving me 2 raises and 2 promotions, to lay off half the staff, from 70 to 35. And I'm like, I just fucking moved to San Francisco, or at the time, my 3-bedroom apartment. I wish I'd never left this place. It was on Nob Hill, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2-car garage, and a private elevator on the top floor penthouse of a building at Broadway and Taylor above the tunnel. For $1,400 a month.
Wow.
And I had a big client at Levi's, and she's like, take it. And I'm like, it's $1,400 a month. And she's like, take it. And I'm like, Mom, do you know what my house payment in Kansas is $435 a month? And she's like, take the apartment. And I was like, I wonder if they'll let me have my cats. So they did, and I took the apartment, and we had the best parties there. But I was making, in 1988, I was making $75,000 a year at this design firm. I quit I got laid off, and I freaked out. And so I just took my portfolio and went to every advertising agency in town with my portfolio under my arm, and half of them were like, you're too good for us. We certainly probably can't afford you. And I'm like, I don't need that much money, just, and nobody would hire me. So I called, this is where networking comes in for me. I called a couple of photographers that I had been working with at the agency that I was directing big projects with. I said, I got laid off, and they're like, yes, we heard. And one of them said, hey, call this guy over at Chiat Day, and he has a project. I think you could work on it. And my first project, he gave me the project, and it was a $150,000 budget. And I did the project for about 40 grand out of pocket, and so I just made more than my whole salary on my first project. And so my first year in business for Reflectur, it was called Sackett Design at the time. And I have a lot of stories about this, about like, I have a speech that I give called Luck is What You Make It. I don't believe in luck, but I believe you build your career, you follow your passion and purpose, and you follow your path. I love what you said. I'm in the middle of writing a book called Curiosity Thrilled the Cat. And about why I live a creative life. But for me, and this is going to be hard for maybe this group to hear, but it's never been about money for me. You know, I mean, I would have gone back to Hallmark, you know, or gone to Hallmark like my mom wanted. But for me, it's always been about, if you love what you do and you follow that path and you stay passionate about it and you go through the ups and the downs and the losses and the failures, then you'll make the money. But it's never been about, I guess I just need to figure out, you know, at the time how to pay my rent, right? That's all I cared about. And making things, doing my creative work, building brands for companies, which is what I do. You know my work. I did Blue Diamond Almonds. I designed all the Levi's labeling. I've done Dark Knight, G.I. Joe, Transformers. I mean, all this amazing, cool, creative work. But I never in a million years thought I would be doing that. And the biggest rush for me in life, and this is going to sound so stupid to people, is when I drive onto the back lot of Warner Brothers to do a project. And I look up at the water tower and I'm like, I'm on the back lot of Warner Brothers. This is so cool. I mean, it sounds so dumb, but like, by how maybe I just defined my creative success, that did it for me. It wasn't about the money. Never has been about the money. And since the pandemic, I mean, I've lost $3 million in revenue since the pandemic. I'm suffering right now, relatively speaking. I don't take a salary. I haven't taken a salary in 6 years. So if there's anything left at the end of the year, I get it, because I file Schedule C, right? So I just kind of hope and pray, and I take care of my employees. I used almost all of my retirement to keep my employees during the pandemic so that they would not have to go out and find a job in the worst pandemic the world has seen in our modern time. So I took all of hundreds of thousands of dollars to keep my staff, because I did not want them to have to go out and try to find a job in the middle of the pandemic. And I would do it again right now. Those are the kinds of things that I care about. How do you care for people? How do you care about your employees? How do you take care of yourself, like you said? You know, take time for yourself. Go to the beach, take lunch. I have one employee who refuses to take her lunch break. She just works right through and she's exhausted all the time. And I'm like, please just go for a walk around the block. But you gotta care for yourself. But I will just tell you, and maybe it'll sink in later, because, you know, if you work in tech, I can't imagine walking away from what I perceive to be the safety of a $150,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year job. This is a joke between Albert and I about a LinkedIn post that somebody put on Albert's list about complaining that they've been out of work for 2 years. They will damn not accept a job under $400,000. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like I never made $400,000 a year in my whole life, and I own my damn companies. Maybe I'm doing something really wrong, but like, and they were like, and that's it. That's where I'm putting my stake in the ground. And I was just like, okay. So I kind of wrote a response post. Anyway, but you know, I appreciate, like, you know, this thing is toggled a lot, which I appreciate, from kind of what do you make and what's your compensation to your entrepreneurial path back to working for somebody else. And I'm kind of waiting for a cage fight between those who work in government and want the stable job and the ones that are entrepreneurs, because, you know, it's an entirely different mindset the way people are wired. Not everybody here should start your company. Not everybody here should work for yourself. Some of you are really great at what you do and need to be in an organization that will support you in that, and that you will get the things you need. So I wouldn't just advise, because every time I speak, everybody's like, I'm going to start my own company. And I'm like, it's more work than working for somebody else by tenfold. And the pain points, the roller coaster and everything else is just a very different, you're not even wired the same. I don't even know how to explain that. But you have to get the idea that money as your motivator is your primary motivator out of your head. I don't care what you're doing, because if you don't love what you do, look, you're all going to be dead in what, 80 years, 70 years? I don't know how old y'all are. I'll be dead probably sooner. But the point is, if you don't love what you do every day, when you wake up, when you go into work, you know, whatever that work looks like, don't do it anymore. And I'm not suggesting you go and quit your job tomorrow, but I am suggesting you start thinking about what it is that you would like to do, because it just doesn't matter. I lost my wife, I've lost both my parents, and I lost 15 people during COVID. And I lost a friend last week who was hit by a car and killed. So, you know, we can say like, oh, my career, my future, and all this kind of stuff, but like, nothing's promised. You don't know you're going to make it out of here today. I mean, after the cage fight, of course. But the point is, if you don't love it, don't do it. And start at least thinking about what your options could be, and take money out of the equation. And you'll make the money if you're passionate about it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think that I hold a 9-to-5 job, and I also run Albert's List as a business. And 9 to 5 is you go to work and you get a paycheck. And then when it comes to running Albert's List, there's expenses, right? So not only are you making revenue, but it costs you money to make that revenue. The email list, doing an event like this where you have the venue costs, the food. And, because I also work with a lot of collaborators on running my events, there's a lot of revenue sharing. And so even though I could tell you that, Albert's List will make $40,000 this year, I probably take home less than 5 because there's a lot of people that also need to get fed along the way. And so when you think about that, right, this is the part where you're separating the hype from the reality where, yes, you get to own your own business. And, one of the things I love about doing this is because there's a privilege of being let into somebody's most vulnerable moment in their life, which is a job, right? Or looking for a job, because we live in a country where your identity is so tied into the work that you do. And so when you're laid off, when you're out there kind of free floating and you get welcome to an event like this, I consider it a privilege that you get to share with me that you're in that situation in your life, and that any of these folks on stage can bring some clarity that you either shouldn't quit tech, or maybe at the end of it, you're gonna run up to one of these folks and you're gonna say, I wanna go do what you wanna do. And if that changes your life, then my job is complete. So, I wanted to add my opinion in there too. Final 2 questions I wanted to ask. So one of the next question I want to go to is, really the thought that a lot of folks are having these days, which is artificial intelligence. If you're in an office job, it's probably dawned on you that maybe an AI could do your job. They're not tired. They're not going to get tired. They're not going to get hungry. They're not going to get sleepy. And a lot of companies have started thinking about how AI will work for them and how they can replace workers. And so the question I want to ask broadly is, if you decide to quit tech, will AI follow you? And for those folks who work in the industries that they do here, the question is, how much is AI a threat to what you do?
I think, well, as I said earlier, I'm old. And so when I started in my design career, I was drawing everything by hand. There were no computers. The Apple Macintosh came out in 1984. And I remember when we got it, we sat in front of it. My entire design team, there were 17 of us crowded around my desk, and we're like, what does it do? And I said, I think it'll replace typesetting. And we were like, oh, well, that might save some money. So we didn't, nobody had any idea it would be what it is now, right? So then we bought the 2CI, and then the 2CX, and then the FX, and then anyway, I've probably bought 150 Apple computers now over my life. And I remember then this thing came out called the internet. And people were like, oh my God, that's going to put everybody out of business. And it's going to destroy blah, blah, blah. And they're like, okay, well, does the internet put anybody out of business? No. And so now, as your graphic designer, anytime a new tool comes out, everybody's like, well, now we're screwed. So at least I'm speaking from my graphic design creative side, film and music and graphic design. And AI is going to, I think, in many ways transform our industry. And basically what I will say, and excuse my language, is shit in, shit out. If you put shit in, you're gonna get shit out. If you put great stuff in, you're gonna get great stuff out. It's only as good as the creator, as the mind, as the idea, okay? And there's a lot of crap out there. There has been for years. Every time we get a new Adobe tool, there's a lot of crap out there. The other thing is, I call it the Appling of America. People can go out, and it's an Apple laptop, is it not? Okay, I don't know what you do, but anybody can go to the Apple store and buy a computer. They can buy the Adobe Creative Suite, and now, of course, they think they're a designer. I'm sorry. I can design circles around anybody because I have training and decades of experience as a branding and graphic designer. Now, just because, you can go to Home Depot and buy a toilet and a bunch of tile, and you can remodel your own bathroom, it doesn't mean it's going to look that great.
Don't do it, don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it. Hire a professional. But the point is, AI, I don't think is going to, I think it's going to enhance my industry the same way that the internet did, the same way that the tools have, and we just have better tools now than we've ever had. We just need how to use them intelligently and responsibly.
For my industry, social work, it's more of an enhancement, and it helps us take our notes down faster. Like we record our conversations, and it goes to our clinical notes. As a grant writer, I use a program called Lepio to help put together packages, and it increases my work productivity overall. So AI is definitely an additive in my industry.
Okay, I'm gonna keep this really short and sweet. First of all, thank you guys all for listening to us. You guys have been awesome. Thank you for sticking around. So here it is. Listen to this.
Oh no.
You know what that
To
is?
the center ring, knocking.
Money knocking
That's
door.
me knocking on my client's door saying, hey, wake up, the appraiser's here. You gotta clean up and get out. There's rat poo-poo in here. You gotta get this out of here. You gotta get all this stuff cleaned out. Get up, go, 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 go. There will not be an AI robot in my lifetime that's gonna come and do that. It's a people business. Stick with people. And as far as the AI bringing in,
You have a lot of poop issues.
right, we do. Tell me about it. As far as your point about AI and the designer, it cannot replace a great designer, but you can do a better first step to give to your designer. Use AI as you can, but still keep those professionals in your life, and you're gonna get a higher product using the tools that are available to you.
I want to make sure I stay connected with the AV team. There's a message. What is the guidance for us? Jessica?
We're at one more question after that.
One more question? Okay.
So I want to
Next
add,
session's starting.
I want to do final thoughts from all of you.
Got it,
and then a
okay.
chance to connect with you or promote what
Is
you
that
got
good,
going on.
Jessica?
You're already
Yeah,
at
yeah.
time.
Yeah, that's, I know, I'm going a little bit over, but basically I want to ask the AI question, and then I want all the panelists to offer like a 45-second final thing and how to connect and maybe promote themselves too. I know we're really way into lunch, and I'm really into this, but I also got these then. So let's go.
Thanks, Albert. All right.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned earlier, I worked TED AI. There was a specific TED AI panel on the workforce. So as Mark said, AI is a tool. A lot of people, when you look at job postings, do you know how to use Microsoft Word or Excel? That's like way back. Now, got to have some level of AI proficiency. So take courses, learn, use it in pretend situations, actual situations. The second thing is who's losing their jobs because of AI. There was a company, CHRO, and she said that they recorded the company kickoff meeting. So every member of the C-suite presented. They took the video, they took the transcripts, they took the Q&A sessions, and they ran it through to score each executive. And that score will determine whether or not they keep their jobs going into next year, or they get replaced by someone else. That's gonna happen, not only at the executive level, video, right? The video of introduction, that can be evaluated. Your entire interview can be evaluated. So if that's one thing, get good at communications. Do role plays, do lots of practice, join boot camps. Communication skills is something you'll have that is not AI.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think I'll reiterate what's been going on here is that I see AI as another tool for us to use to help students learn in the classroom. And I think in particular, it's doing a great job of giving us additional ways to reach people in, say, more rural regions, or just connect great teachers with more students in the country, right? These tools allow us to work with more students at a time and be more efficient. So, you know, we can generate problems really quickly instead of me sitting there and thinking, okay, like I have to come up with this math problem. You know, now I have AI and software, it can generate 20 problems for me in like a minute. And then I can just have students work on those problems. But in terms of teaching and actually working through a solution, I think that human-to-human connection is really where teachers shine. And again, it is about that communication and connection to go beyond AI.
I think, as you mentioned previously, I don't see AI starting to create hats anytime in the near future. However, it has been interesting to see how AI and the imagery that can be created is sort of swaying the way that creatives ourselves are presenting our work, or even how we're being requested to create our work. I've found across, like, I do embroidery, for instance, and I've seen AI generated embroidery pieces, and then somebody coming to somebody and saying, hey, can you make this for me? And it's like, well, no, because an AI did that, and that's not actually possible, but we can make something different that would be really made by, handmade by somebody. And so I find that it's coming in from the ideation side, where we could use it again as a tool, as a jump start to the project that we're making, but to actually, take over my role. I think the hats and the jewelry making, I think it's still going to stay in human hands.
As I mentioned before, government is like on the laggard end. They're still having, at the county, they're still having water cooler talks at the county IT department over AI. And I scratched my head, I stayed silent. I'm like, are you kidding me? They're still like talking about it, whether we're gonna use it or not. I go, it's already here, friends, already here. So, we're like on the way tail end. And, again, government's all red tape. So they're not gonna be like jumping at the bit to have AI replace every single thing in government. So again, use it as a tool. And if you're not using it as a tool, you are going to be the tool, because you're not going to get a job, or you're going to be left behind, unfortunately, because others are leveling up their emails, their grant writing. Like I have to write a huge grant pretty soon. I need to use AI to make sure that it's grammatically sound. I do not want to not use AI, because then I'm going to have, my grant's not going to be funded. So that's my take on it.
All right, awesome. Okay, so we have 6 minutes till the bottom of the hour. There's 6 of you. I want to have each of you offer one final main thought, main takeaway, and then if you have something that you want to promote about yourself, throw that in there. All right, let's go.
Okay, let's do this. As my dad always said, 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. What I hear from tech workers is, oh man, I'm getting I got a job offer, but it was like $30,000 less than what I made currently. Look, you have to know your market. You gotta know. Yes, I'm all about value. Yes, definitely. But you kind of have to go, you know what, am I gonna spend, the average person spends around, if they're a senior level executive, around 60 days unemployed. You know how much that is if you make $50 an hour? That's around $20 or $30,000 that you just lost, when you could have just taken a little bit of an L to maybe elevate yourself forward. And you can find me, my name, Cheryl Lee. You type in librarian, you'll find me.
Awesome. I guess I would just offer to you to continue to chase that curiosity, have some courage, and just to be flexible with whatever comes your way, and to know that if you have a plan, it's probably not what's going to actually happen. So be open to whatever opportunities present themselves to you as you show up as you are, and in your strengths and in just your authentic being. And best of luck. I wish you a very entertaining adventure and journey, finding yourself in places that you've never dreamed that you could be. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Sandy McClenehan. I do coaching, as I mentioned, and I'm always happy to work with people who are creating life in the way that they want it to be. So, hope to talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for everyone joining us here. It's been great. I think I'm going to reiterate what Sandy said. I think exploring your curiosity, take on that extra freelance project, take on that extra class from Coursera, watch that hour-long YouTube video on that thing you're really interested in. Just think about planning for the future, have some backup plans. if things don't go right, have plan B, C, D about other things that you can try as well. You can find me on LinkedIn or at my website, connectionmath.com. Happy to connect with any of you who are curious about freelancing or education. Very interested to connect with anyone in the education industry as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Wesley. It's not going to be surprising. As a communications trainer, I'm going to encourage you to focus on your communication skills. Practice often, practice together. So the invitation is every Thursday, we run something called Open Gym Thursdays. It's on Zoom from 12 to 1 p.m. And you can find it at www.heroicvoice.com/gym. Come. If you're practicing for an interview, if you're practicing for a recruiting event, we have helped people land great jobs. We took a corporate lawyer, and because she's done several workouts, she landed a general counsel position at a startup company. So look forward to seeing you in the gym.
Yeah, if you want to get into real estate, you're going to have to go all in. It's not a part-time thing. It's not something that you can really kind of just do, because you're probably going to end up losing everything. You're probably losing everything anyway, but you might get it back, and you might get it back twice, and you might get it back 3 times. Speaking to the points, there's a couple of different generations up here. Some of us had to buy books at the collegiate level that were crazy expensive. Other generations, like the ones in here now, have something that we didn't have: free information. I think that's why they really wanted to shut down TikTok, because it was free exchange of ideas and information. They want you to go through their institutions to get that. You have it, get it, look up those things. Third one, buy a rice cooker, buy a slow cooker, cook at home, economize. Just do whatever it takes to make your dreams happen. If you need to get a hold of me, go to retirefromcalifornia.com, which is my website, or I also bought StopTheSteal2025.com and redirected it to my website. You can also get a hold of Albert. Thank you guys all so much.
So Albert's basically my best friend. We talk a lot, like every day almost. So if you have to get a hold of me, just get a hold of him. we're always talking to each other. Yeah, so last words. I just want to plug my conference I'm speaking at, and so I'll be in Honolulu talking about homelessness and housing for the Native Hawaiian population in 2 weeks. If you're interested in making an impact on people's lives, please see me after.
Okay, I guess, first of all, thank you for having me, and great to see you again, Anthony. I've known these two guys for at least
10 years.
10 years or more. They come to my event.